At 2:07 a.m., I was the richest, useless man in Rainford, Washington, rocking a starving newborn and begging God for instructions, the bottle warmer, blinking like a bad joke while my hands shook in a house that felt like a glass cage. Then a soft knock cut through the storm, polite but stubborn, and when I opened the door, our housemaid Tasha Green stood there soaked through with her own baby on her chest and said, calm as a nurse on a double shift, "I'm still breastfeeding. I can help." Pride tried to answer first, but upstairs, my daughter broke into those thin, gasping cries that rip a hole in your chest, so I moved aside and Tasha crossed the nursery, turned her shoulder, and my kid latched like someone had finally opened a window. The rain eased, the house exhaled, and I dropped to my knees, whispering, "Thank you. Thank you." By sunrise, the kitchen smelled like cinnamon oats and strong coffee. Tasha, in a dry blouse, pouring into my old green mug, no cream, no sugar, like Lena used to. And when I offered drivers and a car and a dozen other things rich men invent to feel helpful, she didn't even look up from the stove. "I'm not here for a handout, Mr. Cole. I'm here because I heard a hungry baby." And that line rearranged my head more than any board meeting ever did. That night, the past walked back in, wearing a badge and road dust, Detective Noor Alvarez at my door, saying an anonymous tip just reopened the case on Lena's death at North Sound Regional, possible negligence by the attending physician, Dr. Victor Hale. And you could have told me the moon was a paper plate, and it would have made more sense because we had buried that night in safe words like complications and God's will. But after she left, I went into Lena's study like I was stepping onto thin ice, found the file marked Hale, prenatal, and there they were, 3 signed requests from my wife for a C-section if labor went long. 3 chances to listen that got filed under noise while I was busy measuring Q4 like it meant something against a heartbeat. I didn't know what to do next, but Tasha did. She pulled a clip-on voice recorder from a drawer and pinned it inside my lapel. "Don't rely on memory," she said. "Rely on tape." So I sat in a gray parking garage with Nurse Erin Park, while her hands wrung the hem of her coat, and she pushed a folded note into my palm. 9:16 p.m. Patient requests C-section. 9:37 p.m. Patient repeats. Attending denies. He said no unnecessary surgery tonight. And when I asked if she'd testify, she said yes, if we kept her safe. Then my phone rang as I crossed the concrete. A voice with no edges. "You're wealthy, which means you're smart. Be smarter. Drop this. You've got a maid and 2 kids in a big empty house." Click, and yeah, that happened. So when I told Tasha, she went quiet. Not scared quiet. Battlefield quiet. And she nodded. "So it's working." Then looked me dead in the eye. "We keep moving. We keep receipts." I used to think grief should be private, so I put on a Navy suit and made mine public, stood under 2 bright lights at Cole Venture Holdings, and said Lena asked for a C-section and was denied, said we had documentation and a nurse, and wanted a full investigation into Dr. Hale in North Sound. And when a reporter asked if the woman behind the curtain was my girlfriend, I didn't feed the headline, I just said, "She's here because she saved my daughter when a hospital didn't." You know what I mean? Some questions answer themselves. The twist came on a laptop in a bland office next to Detective Alvarez. A grainy hospital video, a whistleblower pulled before someone hit, erased the angle bad. The sound thin, but at 9:15 p.m. My wife looked straight into that room with fear and a spine of steel and said, "I want a C-section. I know something is wrong." And you hear Hale smooth as marble. "You're anxious. Natural is best." Then you hear Lena say, "Document that I asked." A nurse turns to the computer and Hale snaps, "We're not doing that." And there's a small cough, the one she did when she tried not to cry, and I could have buried the evidence to protect myself from the worst sound I've ever heard. Instead, I sent it to my lawyer, Renee Calder, and told her to get it daylight. And that night, Tasha sat with me and watched the whole thing and didn't speak until the end. She was brave, and all I could say was, she was everything. North Sound fired back like institutions do, polished condolences, confidence in their team, a whisper to bloggers that grief makes husbands misremember. Then a smear about me and Tasha. Before Lena died, Tasha showed me the headline, while she fed June and just shook her head. "They'll exhaust you if you let them," she said. "Let's exhaust them instead." So we did filed motions that read like brick walls, brought more nurses in from the shadows, released the video with a warning that it would hurt, and a promise that silence hurts worse. And when the oversight board held a hearing, we sat under white lights at a long table where the water is always cold, and the people acting calm are always the ones in charge. And Hale tried to aim past the evidence, and at the woman behind me, "This has been fanned by a housemaid with a personal interest." And before I could stand, Tasha did. "I'm not the one with the license, doctor, and I'm not the one who ignored a patient in pain. If you need to discredit a mother to defend your medicine, maybe you shouldn't be practicing." And the room made that small sound people make when truth arrives without makeup. 10 days later, the board suspended him. I thought it was one man's arrogance then. A thin guy with haunted eyes who used to drive for Hale handed me a flash drive at our gate and said, "There's a network, compliance scores, money." And when Renee's team opened it, we didn't see a conspiracy theory. We saw a spreadsheet with a budget software tagging patients for adherence risk, which sounds clinical until you read the notes that feed it. Assertive, overly informed, anxious. And you map outcomes to race and insurance and zip code. Not every doctor used it the same, but enough did that patterns formed. And there it was in Lena's record, a note from 6 months earlier after she questioned a dosage, pushy self-diagnoses. And I am a man who loves charts because charts don't shout. But when a chart tells you your wife got punished for knowing too much, you either swallow it or you stand up, so we brought in a federal civil rights attorney who said, tapping his pen like a drummer, "We don't have to beat them in a day, we have to make it expensive to keep doing this." The threats didn't stop, they just put on different clothes. A black SUV idled too long across the street. Our nanny found a note on her windshield that said, "Don't feed the fire." Tasha ran lockdown drills and kept a go-bag by the door. We cooked pancakes anyway, played old soul records anyway. Let June's eyebrows argue with the world, and kept showing up in rooms that make quiet people small. A tribunal asked for impact, not just evidence, so I told them about Sunday mornings in the rose garden, where Lena trimmed stems and hummed to our daughter. Told them what it's like to stand in a hallway and hear a machine beep where laughter should be. And Tasha took the mic, even though she hates microphones, and said, "I held a crying baby in the dark because a hospital didn't listen in the light. You don't need a license to tell the truth." And when the ruling came in a plain PDF like everything's sacred now, they revoked Hale's license and referred the case up the ladder. The board chair resigned before lunch, news called it. Accountability, but it felt like gravity finally catching up. Revenge wasn't the point. Systems were, so we launched the Lena Cole Foundation to fund legal help and train hospitals to document and honor patient requests unless there's a clear medical reason not to. Thousands of emails came in from women saying they were called dramatic, anxious, difficult. Tasha read them at the dining table with a highlighter and a box of tissues and said, "We'll answer every single one." A state rep called then a senator. And months later I sat under bad lighting in Olympia while the Patient Voice in Labor Act passed, not my name on it. And thank God for that, just a simple promise that requests would be documented and records accessible in real time, which is how dignity should work. Peace didn't come quiet like I imagined. It sounded like kids on the lawn, and Tasha humming while she chopped apples, and my mother-in-law Elaine telling Tasha in the sunroom, "Lena would have wanted someone like you in that room." And it looked like a photo we didn't know existed, of Lena and Tasha laughing on a bench last spring, framed in our hallway, like the house finally told the truth about who kept it alive. And if that's where this should end, I get it. But life likes a last test, a national partner. We wanted called to say Tasha's role might create optics challenges, and I swear that phrase tastes like chalk. They never said black woman, never said maid. They said optics, and I told them the foundation exists because of the woman. They were trying to move to a smaller room. They offered a quiet advisory spot. I offered them the door, then stood in front of a packed auditorium and said, "If your solution to a woman speaking truth is to move her to a smaller room, you are not ready to save lives." And Tasha didn't need a speech because the room already knew who carried this story on her back. People still ask if releasing the hospital video was right, if turning our worst night into a screen moment crossed a line, and I don't have a clean answer for anyone who wasn't there. I chose Lena's voice over my comfort. I'd do it again because somewhere a woman is being told she's anxious when she's in danger, and if our mess makes one nurse think twice before clicking enter, then go ahead and argue with me in the comments. Tell me if you think I crossed a line or if I did. What you would have done, tell me if you've seen hospitals treat one kind of woman different than another. If optics is just a polite word for prejudice, you know what I mean. And if this story put a hand on your shoulder, share it. Because in my house, care beat power, a maid taught a billionaire how to listen, and a baby who once screamed herself hoarse now sleeps with her fists unclenched. That's not a miracle, that's people showing up until the world has to change.